everybody. Today we're going to be doing fractions and decimals and percents. Oh my! Just a reminder, tomorrow and Friday we are having our IXL benchmark tests. Now I know at the beginning of the year when we took the first ones, I gave you guys the whole spiel about how you have to take it very seriously. I have to say, it's even more important to take this test seriously at the end of the year because of everything that has happened with COVID and being home and doing distance learning. It's so important for your teachers to be able to take a look at this data so that we can best help you when you come back to school next year. So we can go over what we need to go over, the skills and especially for math, the skills that we learned while we were at home may not be as strong as if they were done at school. So it's really, really important for you guys to take the test seriously so that I can see and Mr. Albrecht can see and of course Mrs. Wasser-Haley can see when you do your ELA 1 what we need to focus on when we get back in September, so that nobody feels lost or falls behind or anything like that. You guys have been keeping up with your work so well, but at the same time I have to just make sure that everything is truly mastered. So if you guys take your test, the IXL benchmark, seriously, that'll really help me and the other teachers and Mr. Albrecht to see what we need to go over. And if you have siblings, that goes for them too, so make sure you spread the word that it's super important. Now that being said, tomorrow and Friday, you've probably already read this on my daily post, but tomorrow and Friday, while we're taking those IXL benchmarks, you are not going to have any classes. But Mr. Albrecht did ask that I provide you guys with some optional work. So I am very happy to tell you that I usually at the end of the year, I teach the 5th and 6th graders how to play Sudoku and Ken puzzles, which are really fun math puzzles. The first Sudoku, some of you probably already know about it. It doesn't actually involve math. It's really just counting and logic and placing numbers in a certain spot. But Ken actually involves math, and it's really, 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 really fun. So what I did was I made you guys a video on how to play Sudoku and how to play Ken. And on Thursday and Friday, those videos will be posted with some puzzles for you. So if you have time, and there is no pressure, of course, but it's fun. So it'll be a short video. You can watch it and see if you're interested and give it a shot. And that's all that you'll have on Thursday and Friday. And again, it's not required. It's just optional, just for fun. Okay, so this is the last lesson of the week. Let's get started. We're going to be talking about how to convert between all three this time, fractions, decimals, and percents. So for the Unlock the Problem, every percent and decimal number can also be written as a fraction. All fractions can be written as decimals and percents. So for example, 2/5 of the songs in Bonnie's music collections are country songs. What percent of her song collection is country? So what you want to do is you want to use what you know about equivalent fractions, meaning what we learned back in the beginning of fractions in 5th grade was that we can make equivalent fractions by multiplying both the top and the bottom of a fraction by the same number, right? So to make a percent, we know it has to be out of 100. So what you want to do is you take your fraction and you try to see if you can take your denominator and multiply it by something in order to get 100, okay? And so in this case, we realize that we can multiply 5 by 20, and that'll give us the 100 on the bottom there. But if you do it to the bottom, you have to also do it to the top, we've learned, right? So I'd have to do 2 times 20, which is 40. So now I know that that's 40 out of 100, which means 40%, okay? 40%. Now, if I wanted to go even further and take that and write it as a decimal, I wouldn't easily be able to do that because this is 40 out of 100, which we spent a whole bunch of time on converting between fractions and percents, right? Percents and decimals. So if it's 40%, that's 40 out of 100, which is 40 hundredths, which is 0.40. So 2/5 is the same as 40%, which is the same as 0.4. Okay, so let's look at some more examples quickly. If we have 8/25, we want to write it as a decimal. The easiest way to do it is to write it as a fraction first. So if we change it into, as a percent, so we can read it as 100th, right? So I change it so that it has a denominator of 100. 25 times 4 gives me 100. So what I do to the bottom, I also do the top. 8 times 4 is 32. So I get 32 hundredths, or 32%, right? And then easily I can write that as a decimal, 32 hundredths. Okay? 90% written as a fraction in simplest form. Please make sure you read that carefully. When I ask you for simplest form, you have to reduce your fraction as much as possible. So 90%, to write it as a fraction, you put it over 100, and then we simplify. So my trick, if you guys remember from class, if you have a 0 in the top and the bottom, you can just cross them out like so, and then that gives you your 9/10. But what we're really doing when we do that is dividing each by 10. Okay, let's move along. Share and show. We're going to do together. Let's complete the steps to write 7/20 as a percent. So remember, we want to try to get the 100 in the denominator, so we can write it as a percent. So I have to think of what can I multiply 20 by to get 100, and that would be 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply top and bottom by 5. 20 times 5 gives me 100, and then 7 times 5 gives me 35. So for 7/20, what's an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100? That would be the 35 hundredths. And then what percent is that? That's 35%. Super duper easy. And if I had to write it as a decimal, it would be 35 hundredths, which is 0.35. Okay, we're going to do 4, 5, and 6 together, and then I'm going to pause, let you guys try these on your own, and then I'll show you the answers. Okay, so we're going to write 1/4 as a decimal. Now, you might know this off the top of your head, right? But I'm going to show you the long way. What I taught you guys in class was to, whenever you see denominator 4, you want to say quarter, right? So this is 1/4, right? And the purpose of me telling you guys that is because we all know how much a quarter is in money, right? So that would be 25 cents, right? So if we had to write that as a decimal just on its own, that's fine. I am going to show you the same way as up here, though. So it's going to be 0.25. Let's see what happens. I want to change this so it has a denominator of 100, and then I'll write it as a decimal. So to get 100 from 4, I'm going to multiply by 25. If I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top. So I get 25 over 100, which is 25 hundredths. And written as a decimal, that looks like this. So as you can see, you get the same answer. All right, 3/10 as a percent. Okay, so I need 100 down in the bottom there. Okay, in order for this to be percent, it's got to be out of 100. So I'm going to say to myself, what can I multiply 10 by to get 100? 10 times 10 is 100, right? So I'm going to do top and bottom times 10, and that gives me 30 over 100. So 3/10 as a percent is 30%. Ta-da! All right, last one, we're going to write 80% as a fraction. And if you recall from the beginning, they said simplified, so we're going to simplify this fraction. A percent is always out of 100, so this is going to be 80 out of 100, and we're going to simplify it as much as possible. I'm going to get rid of these zeros first. That gives me 8/10, and remember that's the same as dividing by 10. And that's not fully simplified yet because I know that 8 and 10 can both be divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the fully simplified version is 4/5. That's probably going to be the hardest part of this, guys, is just simplifying correctly. Okay, so I am going to have you guys pause and try the on your own, okay, by yourselves, and then you can come back and check your answers. All right, here are your solutions for number 1. Hopefully you're able to see that one. Half is 50%. I did all of them by converting them, though, just to show you. 9/10, you multiply by 10 and you get 90 hundredths. You could have also just from the beginning saw 9/10 and written it as 0.9. 11/20, we multiply top and bottom by 5, and as a percent, that's 55%. Number 10, as a fraction, put it out of 100. You can divide both top and bottom by 25, and you get 3/4. 3/5 as a percent, multiply by 20, and you get 60%. 9/25 as a decimal, multiply by 4, and I get 36 hundredths. 13 as a percent, multiply by 2, get 58%. 14 1/20 as a percent, multiply by 5, and I get 5%. Number 15, 4% as a fraction, so I put it out of 100 and then simplify, divide top and bottom by 4. 1/25 is your answer. 4/5 as a percent, multiply by 20 and get 80%. 24/25 as a decimal, multiply by 4 to get that 100. That's 96 hundredths. And then finally, 41/50 as a percent, multiply top and bottom by 2 and get 82%. And that's it, guys. So remember, easiest way to do this, you're trying to get the denominator to be 100. So you multiply by whatever factor you need to. All right, this is it. You can try the problem solving if you'd like to. You don't have to right now. But it's pretty fun, so have fun.